And now I'll turn it over to my colleague from the 1st Congressional District, Congressman David Mason.
Thank you, Jim. Good morning. Thank you, Cedric, for hosting us, and thanks for the great work that the Institute does. I'm delighted to be here with our senior senator, junior senator, and my senior colleague in the House, Congressman Langevin, and thanks, Senator Reid, for organizing today's event. Governor, it's good to be with you, and Mayor, good to be with you. I want to begin by acknowledging all of the elected officials here, our Lieutenant Governor, Representative Batista, make sure I didn't miss anyone. Our Attorney General has been recognized. Okay, that's right, Councilman Pedro Espinal. And also the law enforcement leadership, Colonel Manny, Chief Clemens, and Commissioner Perry, and all the community members that are here, and the great advocates for gun safety who have been toiling in these vineyards for a long time. Thank you for being here and for the good work that you do. I want to start my remarks by acknowledging the incredible pain that is being felt in the city right now. And while the facts are still being gathered, last week's incidents in particular, I know have been devastating for friends and for family and for the loved ones of the victims of gun violence. And we should acknowledge, as Senator Reid mentioned, that gun violence is a uniquely American epidemic. More people have died from gun violence in my lifetime than have been killed in all of our country's wars going back to the Revolutionary War. This is a crisis that we know touches every community, rich and poor, red states and blue states, cities, small towns, and everything in between. And none of us are immune from this epidemic. And we saw that last Thursday night, the largest mass shooting in the history of our capital city. It was a senseless and heartbreaking event. And I was in the Rose Garden with President Biden last month, and the president called on Congress to pass universal background checks, which we have in the House, which Senator Reid and Senator Whitehouse are fighting to get Republican support in the Senate. Closing the Charleston loophole. He also called for passage of the assault weapons ban, which I authored in the House, which would ban these military-style weapons that were developed for war in the battlefields and don't belong in the neighborhoods of our communities. The president also announced a series of executive orders to stop the proliferation of ghost guns, to make it more difficult to modify guns, to make them more dangerous, to make it easier for states to enact red flag laws, as Senator Reid just described. And most importantly, maybe for this setting, he directed 5 agencies of the federal government to direct vital support to community violence intervention programs as quickly as possible. And we also fought hard to include funding and to be sure that it was considered a permissible use. The fiscal recovery funds that come to the state and to cities and towns can be used to support programs like the Institute. And I will just say from my time, I know the mayor agrees, the most difficult phone call you can get is about someone who's been killed in your city. And to have to sit with a family or notify a family, those are moments you never forget. They're the hardest part of this job. I can say without question, the work of the Institute prevented more violence in the time that I served as mayor than any other thing happening in the city, because they were preventing violence before it happened. And so I hope we'll all work together to make sure they get the support they need to expand and grow, because it's a really effective violence intervention program. But we also have responsibilities at the federal level to make it harder for criminals and children and people with serious mental illness to get a gun. And so, there are a number of measures, dozens of measures actually in the House that will make that happen. We've passed some of them, we need to pass more, and we need our Republican colleagues to embrace some of these common sense proposals to reduce gun violence in this country. Unfortunately, we've not had a lot of support from our Republican colleagues, and we need to sort of use today as a reminder that we need to convince those in Washington that this is a real problem and get our Republican colleagues to be part of the solution. In addition to that, as has been mentioned, we also have to focus on creating hope and opportunity and alternatives for young people particularly. And so as we craft the American Jobs Plan in the House, we want to make sure it includes a summer jobs program, which we know a job is one of the key strategies to prevent young people from making the wrong choices. And also we want to ensure that we're supporting mentorship programs, because in addition to having a good job, if you have a great mentor, that can really contribute to success in young people's lives. We're going to work as a delegation to support all of these efforts, all of this legislation, and continue to fight to bring resources to Rhode Island to support programs that are effective in reducing gun violence. This is our collective responsibility. We're committed to it. We're working hard to make sure all of the resources are here that are necessary to keep our communities safe. And with that, I want to recognize Senator Casado, I just saw there,